tonight's RPM, we don our wellies to bring you a motorsporting event where speed doesn't matter. We're going gravity cheating in a branch of the sport which bounces into its 30th year this winter. There's an unusual collection of metal gathered in the forecourt of the National Trust's splendid Springhill House in Moneymore for the Calor Sporting Trial. These are the ladies and gentlemen of the Sporting Trials Drivers Club, and if you want something different to do this winter, this could very well be for you. So forget the fireproofs, let's get on the thornproofs and find out a little bit more about these buggies and the people that bounce in them. People like Tommy Reed.
Tommy Reed, yet another form of motorsport. What's this all about?
Well, it's what they call sporting trials or mudplugging. It's a different form. It's got 4 wheels, it's got an engine, it's got a nice passenger, and that's what it's all about, enjoying yourself.
Margaret, this isn't exactly a sort of Sunday school picnic, is it?
Not exactly, but it's a good outdoor activity. There's plenty of hills to climb by foot as well as by car. They always advise us to look at the course very carefully, to walk it before you actually drive it. So it's good exercise.
Now, you play a big part here. You have to get quite physical in this car, don't you, to get it up these hills?
Well, I'm told I should put the weight here or there, or move it around a bit, but it's good exercise. It's exciting.
They look dinky little cars, but it's fairly serious stuff, isn't it?
Very. It's a bit like cricket in some ways, in the sense that you only get one chance. You can lose a trial just by making one slip early on a hill, and then it's all gone for the whole of the day.
There's been a recent revolution in the design of these mudpluggers, and that quantum leap has come from Northern Ireland's famous racing car designer, John Crosley.
These are the new Crossell cars built by Crossell Racing. The ones we started in were Alexis's and Cannons, like 25 years ago, whenever my father was doing it. We then moved on to Concords, and now we've come to this level, which is about as good as you get now. Well, we're using a Honda shuttle engine, 12-valve shuttle, and this car is running on gas, purely because whenever you're up a steep incline, you've no problems with float in an ordinary carburetor. They're Formula Ford gearboxes, fuel and bits and pieces in them, and it's a Volkswagen setup at the back of a transaxle. We use fiddle brakes on these. Basically, the foot pedal only operates the front 2 wheels. You have 2 hand brakes, one for each back wheel, which we call fiddle brakes, and they operate, you can handbrake each back wheel in turn, and it acts as a limited slip in effect, because you can control the power going through the differential. On these cars now we have one single shock mounted horizontally over the back axle. Putting on a camber going across a hill, the pressure is pushed from the downhill tyre to the uphill tyre to try and even out the pressure for the grip to go across a camber. There's a lot of suspension travel in them because of the off-road terrain that we're driving on. Front suspension, just 2 simple motorcycle shock absorbers, as you can see here, and not much in it. It's just basically to connect the front axle with 2 panhard rods, and it's fairly conventional. We have full Ackerman steering on these things. which helps with, you can actually turn it with the use of the brakes. It'll turn even tighter than the normal steering would allow.
Now, so all that sounds to me like a fairly expensive package.
It is, and it isn't. There's cars for sale, I suppose, about maybe £2,500. There's one for sale at the moment. From there up, it depends how much money you want to put into it.
At the top end?
At the top end, I would think about maybe 10, 12,000, but that's with an engine and all prepared for it.
David, it's got the droop snoot of a Concorde, but what does it all mean?
I don't really know. It's just the model of it. It's the year it was made, and the droop snout is the later years haven't got the droop snout.
Right, now, these, of course, were also made in Northern Ireland, like the Crosleys.
They're made by Mike Martin from Belfast. This car was made in 1974, so it's 20-year-old now.
So you have a little problem on these hills, do you?
Yeah, slight problem with the Crosleys, not just as they don't climb as well as the Crossley.
And where is it? What's the big design breakthrough that the Crosley made?
Well, independent suspension and the gearbox mounted on the back axle. We're on a live axle. I have a Ford Anglia axle in the back of this. So that's the main breakthrough.
Do you have a class for non-Crosleys? Or?
Well, there's two classes. There's an A class and a B class, which I lead the B class, actually. And John Crossley's second in it. He's not here today, so that gives me a slight advantage.
These people who winter in the woods come from all forms of motorsport, and mudplugging attracts all age groups.
Well, I don't believe it. 2 Formula Opel champions in a mud plug.
Yeah, it's a bit of a change now, but it's not really the first time that both of us have had an off-road excursion together, you know.
What do you enjoy about this?
Well, it's something completely different, you know. It's getting away. There's not really there's not really any comparisons you can make to what I do, but in actual fact, I've been mudplugging before I ever raced, so I've been doing it for quite a few years now.
Wayne, you're a passenger, I see. That's not an unusual role for you.
No, it's never really navigated or anything like that before, so it's my second day passenger, but sure, it's something to do over the winter months and if you're not racing.
Maybe we might see you actually trying to get up a hill in this later on, would we?
That could be a possibility. I just don't have the grips of it yet, but bit of practice will be on them.
The first test contains just about everything you're likely to encounter on a sporting trial. First, we dive downhill. Remember that you must keep between the markers. You can take as long as you like, but the further you get, the less marks you incur, and at the end of the day, it's the pair with the lowest total that win. Now we're going across the gradient. There are trees, gullies, stumps, anything evil that the organizer can find. They all have to be negotiated, and it always ends with a big hill. Tommy manages to clear that one, so he gets no points. This is John Keatley and Crawford Henderson, the 1993 champions. Therefore, they carry plate number 1. And this car has one of those ingenious Willie Cook-prepared LPG-fueled Honda engines in it. It's a real state-of-the-art trials car, and the local man will be very hard to beat. As you can see, the points are coming down all the time as they negotiate the test. And now for the moment of truth. And John gets off to a very good start by using a gentle approach to clear the first section. But here's some real opposition, Mark Vaughan and Damien McMullen. They also have one of the new gas-powered Crosleys, and Mark's been in excellent form recently. Damien balances the car as they make their way through the markers, making sure not to touch any of them. And again, it looks like Mark is going to use that gentle approach as they go up this very steep incline. And again, they're clear. Brian Edgar, a former Formula Ford racing man, has Irvine Thompson, himself a saloon car racer, in the passenger seat. His Crosley is petrol-powered, and the County Down driver won last time out. Brian's a little heavier with the right foot. And that technique also works. Here's the club president, John McKinney, in one of the older Concords, and Alan Clayton as his passenger. They're going to have great difficulty in beating the Crosleys. Boy, do they try! And succeed, a lesson learnt. Never give up at mudplugging. Willie Woodside's in Class B in his SRB Trials car, and in great concentration at the moment. But also in bother and test 1, and he loses 9 points, a very bad start. Trevor Aston and Peter Flack in their Concord also get stuck. And David Hamilton and Isabel Lapham are one of the Class B favourites, and they start the day in fine style. And so we move on to test 2, and this is really just a straight blast up the hill with a choice of which way you decide to go round the tree. At the top, however, it gets very steep indeed, and it's going to be difficult to get over that one marker board. But Mark Vaughan is in cracking form. Still, he doesn't quite make it, and that in fact will be the only test that he loses a mark on during the entire morning. Here comes Brian Edgar, Michael's father incidentally, who proves to be his main rival. And after the morning's run, he will be just 1 point behind. Brian Vaughan, Mark's brother, with Terry Smith acting as ballast, is not having such a happy time. He's had a couple of big scores against him already, but he climbs very well here. And what of our local racers? Well, mixed emotions, I'm afraid. A bad mistake in the first test has dropped them back, but they're flying now.
We had a big mistake in our very first section of the day and we dropped to 6. But from that we've done quite well, but our total's on 9 now, so we've got a lot to make up now in the afternoon session, but all I can do is not make any mistakes.
Wayne, have you got a good head for heights? Or are you getting high enough to worry about it?
Yeah, you'd be catching a lot of speed at the top of the track, which I was surprised about, but basically the first corner really destroyed us, as always. So hopefully if we keep the pressure on the rest of them, we might gain a few places later on in the day.
Mark, rumour has it you might be leading this event.
I've heard a similar rumour myself, Alan. I'll see how it goes from now on. I think we've seen the easy part of the day in the morning with this bit of rain. I think this afternoon we'll sort out the result.
Test 3 starts with quite a steep climb, then it plunges round markers 7, 6 and 5 and ends up with a very, very difficult section. By the afternoon, John Keatley and Crawford Henderson are resigned to the fact that this will not be their day. But hold on to your duncher, for here we go over the top. They finally make it to marker 2, good for anyone other than the current champion. And here's the danger, Mark Vaughan and Damien McMullen. Mark has been helping to spread the word about the capability of these new Crosleys on the English trial scene, and the County Down factory are now taking orders for their beautifully designed products from across the water. And here we see a perfect example of just how to drive one. Still, this time he didn't make it quite over the top. Tom McKinney and Dale Elliott are having an excellent day in their older Concorde. Tom, who is also a former racer, is just one of 3 members of the McKinney family who regularly take part in mudplugging. And Tom's spirited style is getting him right to the top. Well, almost. His cousin John also keeps the Concorde name alive. These cars were built at least 15 years ago, and they are an affordable entry-level option. About £3,000 could buy one. They may be older, but they certainly can take the punishment. Trevor Aston and Peter Flack are well in the running, up until the last test, when they get stuck with a 9-point marker. They get much further, however, here. And here's the 3rd member of the McKinney family, Tom's son Andrew. Sadly, his Concorde will be decidedly subsonic today, as it will shortly retire with a broken axle. Andrew is tackling this one like a veteran, but here comes that dreaded tree again. The final test, test 4, some tricky up and downhill stuff amongst the trees to begin with, then a final blast up the gorge, where it is virtually vertical. After their first test disaster, Michael Edgar and Wayne Douglas finished the day in fine style. They eventually make it back to 5th place with a score of 13 points dropped. And what's more, they make it over the final mountain. John Keatley and Crawford Henderson are a rather lowly 4th. Well, lowly for them at any rate. There are no excuses offered, but it is generally accepted that being the first over a test can be a big disadvantage. Once you have broken through the carpet of leaves, there is usually a lot more grip available to the following runners. Once again, John unusually doesn't make it quite to the top. Tom McKinney and Dale Elliott will be more than pleased at being the top Concorde and in 3rd place. Believe it or not, it has not been a particularly slippy day. In muddy conditions, the Crosleys would have been much further ahead. And Tom sails over the top. Brian Edgar and Irvine Thompson win the tiebreaker with Tom McKinney. They both were on 7 points and take an excellent 2nd place in their Crosley. Just look at that concentration. And here are today's undoubted winners, Mark Vaughan and Damien McMullen. Throughout the day, these two experts of this unique form of motorsport only dropped 2 points. And this indeed will prove to be a turning point in the championship, as from Springhill onwards, Mark will go on to take the Calor Trophy and the title. And just to cap it all, he provides us with a nail-biting finale in the final test. Yes, in mudplugging, you never, never, never give up.